Hello everyone, in this video I'll be ranking the best throwing weapons in Baldur's Gate 3 on a tier list. And you may have noticed there's only 6 weapons and 1 pair of boots on that list. That's because those are the only items that actually have a unique interaction with throwing. All daggers, hand axes, javelins, light hammers, tridents, and spears will all have the thrown ability on there. But unless it has a special ability that's noted in the tooltips here, it doesn't actually do anything when you throw it. So even though the Everburden Blade has a 1d4 of fire damage, it doesn't apply on a throw. I'm going to give a quick honorable mention to the Orphic Hammer because this is a thrown weapon, doesn't have any special abilities when you throw it, but advantage on saving throws against spells is really good. I also want to mention the Shield of Returning, which is in the game's code. You can't get it without using console commands, but this will bind to your being, return to your Hand of Thrones, so you could have a full-on Captain America build. Unfortunately, it doesn't work properly. I really wish it did, but a great offhand weapon for throwing builds is actually the Dolar Amaris here, because this will give you additional critical hit damage, which is really nice. Now, for items that actually interact when you're throwing, the Helldust Gloves here will add the additional damage onto it from the gloves, so the 1d6 fire damage and bleeding for some reason. It does kind of both of the options there. The Legacy of the Masters will give a +2 bonus to the thrown weapon rolls, and there's not many. Now, you don't really need any bonuses to attack rolls, but this gives +2 damage +2 bonus to damage rolls. I also want to mention you don't need bonus to attack rolls because at level 4 you should always take Tavern Brawler, which will double your strength modifier, add that to attack and damage rolls, which means you're never going to miss basically when you throw weapons. The Dark Justiciar Gauntlets also will apply that necrotic damage, and same as the better versions there you get too. Alright, with that out of the way, we'll get into the actual weapons here. So the Blade of the First Blood, or Orin's Dagger here, has the Bond weapon, and it's a light thrown weapon, so this will return to your hand. You don't have to be an Eldritch Knight. I should also mention that the Barbarian can throw any weapon they want with their Elemental Cleaver, so I could have picked every single weapon in the game, but I'm just going to again pick these ones here. Nyrulna, one of the best because this gives a huge area of effect damage when you throw it. We have the Dwarven Thrower, which is great, especially if you pick an Eldritch Knight, because this gives you Disguise Self, which allows you to turn into a dwarf if you're not currently playing one. The Comeback Hand Axe is also another one that can work. This one is really funny, but we'll get to it. And the Slinging Shoes there, the Returning Pike, one of the very first thrown weapons in the game, and it's a really good one because of that. And also the Lightning Jabber, which gives you additional lightning damage. Now, I'm first going to start off with the Slinging Shoes. So you actually get these from Tara, and you can get these by trading her fish. So that's an automatic S tier, the best item in this game. But they're a little bit interesting. So when you throw them, they only do 1 damage. But if you got Tavern Brawler, it'll add your 8 damage onto it. And then it does a 2d4 of psychic damage. So when you go to throw it, it also has a cool interaction here. So we go throw our weapon there. It did 29 damage, or it did 19 damage. You can get upwards of like 20 to 30 damage there. It does hit decently hard, especially if you're using the Resonance Stone, as it'll double that psychic damage. We can see here we rolled a 5 for psychic, it doubled it from the Resonance Stone, the 1 from just the regular damage of the shoes, and then our strength modifier there. So while this isn't really that strong, I still want to mention it here because it'll equip these shoes onto you, so you can just continually keep going to throw them at enemies. And that time we got 21 damage there, so it's a little bit better. It is sometimes weird where it won't show up in your inventory, and the Scratch and Owlbear get really excited to catch it. But yeah, these are an item that you can use, so I just want to include this on this list. I'm just going to put these in the C tier because you're probably going to want to use different items. There's a lot of better boots out there, and you're likely going to want to use a type of weapon, especially if you get to Act 3. There's like Nyrulna you can grab around the same time, which is much better. And next up, we have the Returning Pike. Now, this is great because you can get this in the Goblin Camp really early on in the game. And what's great about this is it's going to be your most reliable damage option if you have someone with Tavern Brawler. So if you play as a Giant Barbarian, a Berserker Barbarian, you're going to be one of the highest damage outputters by the time you hit level 4 because you then hit Tavern Brawler and this spectacular weapon. So it says you take this weapon, which does 1d10 of damage, and you can throw it at someone. It's going to do a lot of damage, as you can see there. And when you get to Act 3, this can be devastating, especially if you have something like the Ballast Armor for the Aura of Murder. It didn't actually apply there because he's not considered a hostile, but this will double up your psychic or your piercing damage. As far as uncommon weapons go, this is going to be old reliable. There's no other options early in the game, and that makes it a very good pick. So I'm going to put that actually into the A tier there just because of its reliableness. You could use it throughout the entire game, although there are better options once you get to Act 3. Now, next up, we have the Lightning Jabber. What's strange about this one is if you have Polearm Master, which normally works on spears, it says spear on the tooltip that I'm blocking with my chair here. So you can see it says spear, but it's actually a javelin. Again, if you took the feat Polearm Master, you don't get those benefits there, but this is one that Eldritch Knight fighters actually can take advantage of because they need to use the weapon bond in order to use this properly, because otherwise you're just going to throw it and lose it. But with this, you get a very reliable damage option because it does add that lightning damage onto the throw there, so that can be really nice. And interestingly enough, you can actually dip this weapon. Some of them that have the extra damage types, it won't. What's funny is your character will just proudly hold it out there whenever you dip it in fire there. but this will allow you to add additional fire damage. What's curious about this is if there's a surface on the ground, it'll actually extinguish the surface, but you can always just carry the reliable candlestick in your pocket here, and whenever you have this, you're able to just get fire at any time. The only unfortunate part is when you put fire on it, by dipping it, it won't actually apply damage whenever you go to throw it. Now, you get this from the Kuatoas in Act 1, so it is a comparable weapon to the Returning Pike, but there's a better use for each of these. So if you have an Eldritch Knight, you want to use this one. It gives you that extra damage. But if you got like a Throw Berserker Barbarian, this one's going to be better. It does a 1d10 of damage, but you cannot use a shield with it, whereas the Lightning Jabber, it's a versatile weapon. You can use a shield. So a specific use case for each of these here, but I would actually say that for most use case, the Lightning Jabber is going to be a little bit worse than the Returning Pike, just because the Returning Pike by nature, you can use a Returning Pike on any character. If you want a Battle Master fighter that uses Tavern Brawler, you can use the Returning Pike. You can't do that. You had to be an Eldritch Knight, or if you play as the new Giant Barbarian, to actually use the Lightning Jabber to its full potential. So I'm actually just going to put this a little bit below the Returning Pike, even though on paper it is better, but it's just less accessible of an item. And before I get any YouTube comments saying that this weapon is directly better than the Returning Pike, they're both in the A tier. They're both incredible weapons. I guess this is time to talk about another fun interaction. So if you have the dual wielder feat, you're open to a lot of fun stuff. So I have the Dwarven Thrower there in my offhand, and I have the Lightning Jabber in my main hand. What's cool about this is when we go to throw one of these, if you have the Great Weapon Master feat, you actually get it, because when you throw it, it does the check whenever you only have one weapon in your hand. So boom, go to throw the hammer there. It's a little gimmicky, but sometimes you do have to have a dagger in one hand. And you can also get dueling, oddly enough, if you throw a weapon and have like a main hand weapon afterwards. But if we're talking just about the Dwarven Thrower here, so this one will return to your hand when thrown, but you get extra benefits by playing as a dwarf. So the Warhammer will deal initial 1d8 damage if you're a dwarf that is using it, and if the target's large, huge, or gargantuan, you get the 2d6 or 2d8, which is 2 to 16 bludgeoning damage. So you can just use Disguise Self if you're an Eldritch Knight fighter, and boom. All right, well, this is not ideal, but I had to get into a fight to actually show off this. Oh, let's try that again. And there, we got the damage off. So you can see the attack roll there. We got our bludgeoning damage, then we got additional 1d8 to roll to 4, and then we got another 8 damage there. What's also cool is you can remove your disguise here as well, and after doing that, you're going to actually be able to do one throwing attack while getting that 1d8 damage, but when it returns to your hand, it now knows that you're not a dwarf. But what's cool is that you can just melee attack with this instead, and anytime that you're a specific race, so like same thing with the Gith weapons, you turn into a Gith, equip the weapon, and then remove the disguise. You're going to keep that through long rests. And when you look at the Dwarven Thrower, if you're comparing it to something like the Returning Pike, this one is really good and a little bit better in certain instances. It doesn't do piercing damage, which is really good, but you can buy this right as soon as you get to Act 3 from Ferg Droger at the Requisitioned Barn. And I'd have to say this one is probably like an S tier. It's just so good, getting additional 1d8 of damage and then an additional 2d8 of damage as well if the target is large, which by the time you get to Act 3, you're going to be fighting a lot of large enemies. Plus, there's something mighty about throwing a hammer around, feeling kind of like Thor, having it return to your hand. If you want to do a Thor build in Baldur's Gate 3, this is the one to use, funny enough, despite Thor being known for not being dwarven sized. I think this is the weapon that everyone wanted to see when they clicked this video, the Comeback Hand Axe. Now, this is pretty fun because it doesn't say it, but it will return to your hand when thrown. You also can get this. It's the best weapon that you can get from the genie, we'll say, because you actually get this item from the genie, not from the jungle where you can get Nyrulna, but kind of same deal here. With the Comeback Axe, whenever you go to throw this here, it is going to come back at us. And this obviously has some negative side effects too, where it will come back and hit us as well. Sometimes this doesn't work if you're not in combat, but it'll return to you. If you're in a fight, it'll return to you and hit you, and it deals damage to yourself. So this can be pretty devastating, obviously, but yeah, you can see there it just warps back to the character. It will bounce off the ceiling. So I guess if we go outside to throw it, you can see there, bonk, and comes back and hits us there. So yeah, you hit yourself with this one. It's pretty funny. This is more so just a gag item. I think it's hilarious though. So yeah, we're still just going to put that in the C tier. The boots are obviously better. Okay, so the real item that you definitely click this video thinking about is Nyrulna. This one is the throwing weapon. So this weapon will return to your hand when thrown. Well, you cannot be forced to drop the trident, and when you throw it, it does a 3d4 of thunder damage in a 6-meter blast centered around the target. This is great because you can take out multiple enemies at once. If you're going against the multiple rats in Act 3, you can actually blow them all up with your trident. This also gives a +3 bonus to movement speed and jump distance. This also has a glowing light on it, and it comes with very good weapon actions with the Zephyr Flash, allowing you to fly forwards here and make the target bleed, which is great if you have barbarians that benefit from that. And it also gives us the Zephyr Break, which can push enemies back. You get this huge beam attack that does a 6d6 of thunder damage. So pretty good. Now, the real benefit of using this is the extra damage that we're going to get from throwing this around, because when you throw it, it does a big explosion. I'm going to do this from camp before I hit guards, because it hits in a big area of effect, and you see there, Shadowheart took that thunder damage. It's really good. This is honestly the best damage. And one great thing about this, if you got a monk, and let's say they're doing their punches, but they want a weapon, and they likely have Tavern Brawler, you can get them to throw Nyrulna, which is kind of like a little assist, because then you can have your monk go out and go, bam, and knock everyone off the ledge using that. So it actually has a lot of great uses. You also have this attack here, which allows you to dash forwards and bleed enemies, dealing additional thunder damage. So yeah, this weapon is absurd. It's easily the best throwing weapon in the game. We're putting it at the very top of the S tier. There should be an S plus tier, and this would be at the top. This is the throwing weapon. The one thing I guess to keep in mind when using this is friendly fire, very common with this weapon, but sometimes the juice is worth the squeeze, and sometimes you need to hit your teammates with this weapon. And the final throw-in interaction weapon is the Blade of First Blood here. So you do some fun stuff with this weapon, and I like the damage from it because it is piercing damage again, and it also can give you increased critical hit chance, and you can also have additional armor class and bond weapon when it's in your offhand here. So again, this is another weapon that any character can use. If you just need a little bit of throwing damage, it's not going to likely be the best option for most characters. It's actually just best used as a stabbing weapon, as you can probably imagine. The bonded weapon just is nice, but I don't think that, or the bounded weapon is nice, but I don't think it makes a massive difference because you're not going to likely be using it. It does give you a riposte, which is obviously really powerful to have, and it's probably, like, compared to Nyrulna, they're kind of tied in terms of overall power. But when we look at this as a throwing weapon only, that's where it kind of lacks. It doesn't have the same oomph as a lot of these other abilities here, and the fact that we get it so late in the game, I'd actually say this one's probably just about B tier if you want to use it on a throwing build. I love the weapon, and it's a true S tier weapon if we look at things from a melee perspective, but if you're going to be using this for throwing, you're likely better just going and grabbing the Nyrulna weapon or using something from literally Act 1 instead. The fact that we get this so late in the game just makes it not an amazing choice, but if you really like throwing daggers, this is really the best option to have, so it can have some merit there, but I just am not crazy. I'm not crazy over Cocoa Puffs or this weapon here. You can do some fun things, though. If you put it in the main hand, it actually can apply vulnerability to piercing damage, and then with something like Nyrulna in the offhand, which is hilarious, you can also deal damage that way. It's just great because I guess using these two weapons here, you can throw them and alternate between them if you get the dual wielder feat. Kind of fun, but not really the best choice for a throwing weapon. So there you have it. I may do a future video breaking out every single throwing weapon because there is a lot that have the thrown property, but those are just the weapons that do benefit from actually throwing them. I really wish that the Trident of Waves was an actual weapon because it applies wet, so you could have your Throw Zerker apply vulnerability to cold and lightning damage for your spellcasters. That would have been way too overpowered, so I understand why they didn't have it happen that way, but yeah, that'd be one I'd love to see as an actual throwing weapon. But there it is. Hit the subscribe button below if you enjoyed this video. Let me know what kind of tier list you'd like to see next. I hope you have a great day, and we'll catch you all in the next video.